Alright, today we're going to be looking at Stick War 3 again. It has been a while, so I'm just going to jump right into the changes that I have not covered recently. Miners got a much-deserved health buff, each one getting 10 more hit points than they had before, 75 for Enslaved and 85 for the normal miner. There also was a slight health buff for the fodder units as well, here with Deads having increased to 60 from 50, Sickle-Wrath having 50 from 45, Sword-Wrath having 85 from 80, and Archidons from 60 to 70. This is a pretty big difference, especially for Archidons, which will now take just about one more hit from every other unit that's in the game right now. This includes other Archidons, Eclipsers, Sickles, Swords. You can pretty much name it, honestly. Going off from there, though, Speartons and Shadowroth had no changes to their stats, but their melee range has been slightly reduced. Because if you haven't noticed before, they can hit targets from really far away, especially when chasing down retreating enemies. Shadowroth was especially good at this, and that's part of why I enjoyed using him. Since it was only a slight change, it shouldn't be that much of a game changer here. But what I did notice is that it did not say they changed Atreus' range, so maybe he still has the same range as he did before, which would make him the longest range unit now. Going from there, we don't have any changes for Toxic Deads, no changes for Giants. Merrics are still the same. Magikill can now hit flying targets with their Magikill Blast, but otherwise they are the same. Also notice we have some nice new artwork going on for these guys that we didn't have before. Off from there, we have no changes to most of these spells here, but we did have a pretty big change to Mass Heal, which was again very necessary. Ignored the outdated description here, but they now heal units for only 60 health over 6 seconds. This is a significant blow to the masses of sword spam and archidon spam that have been going on for the longest time, though their increase in base health from before kind of counteracts this, but only slightly. Going from there, Lightning Storm had a very slight damage nerf. They now only do 18 damage on direct hit and 9 additional chain damage to all units that have the Voltaic Spark on them. Basically what this does is it's not going to kill miners nearly as quickly as they did before, especially with their now increased health. No change for projectile barrier here, which I'm kind of a little disappointed about because of how strong it is. But Snow Squall did get a change to make it a little bit more viable. They now only slow friendly units by 50% compared to enemy units, where I don't know the exact percentage of slow that it is, but it's like 80% something. Going off from there, no changes to most of the enhancements except for Vampiric Soul, which now cures all units upon attacking another unit. This cures not only poison or toxic totality, but it also cures blazing and voltaic spark. This has been proving to be a bit of a nuisance, because if we just look at the top decks here, pretty much everyone is using it here as their preferred mythic, aside from the occasional glacial fletching or blazing bolts here that you see. Perhaps the biggest change that's come recently, though, is there's been a large rehaul for all the upgrades here. For example, Cancel Archers, instead of costing the 100 gold and 100 mana, it is now just a flat cost of 400 gold, and it also has only 2 tiers now instead of 3. The second tier costing 600 gold, so 1,000 total for the 2 Castle Archers. The Dead's Graveyard Spawn, again, got some nice art here. It's still pretty much the same as before. Maybe there have been some changes to the cost, but it just spawns 4 Deads at a time at the max tier, which takes pretty well on time to upgrade, about 90 seconds, and 2 minutes for the other 2 tiers as well. Control Whip, note change, Spirit Spawn. Oh boy, Spirit Spawn. I still have some feelings about this one, but they definitely did increase the price quite a lot. where it's 200 for the first tier, 300 for the second tier, and 400 for the third tier. But since they all target the statue only and not any other units, it's still a very strong late game upgrade. And I'm not sure how I feel about 4 Speartons being sent out at once, because that is a lot of hit points to deal with, including whatever else they have in their army. Lastly, the big change here, Toxic Totality. Again, ignored this plus 3 poison damage. It was changed. They now only get plus 1 poison damage for the first upgrade, which is a whopping 300 mana for the cost. And for the second tier, which takes 3 minutes and 20 seconds to make, that costs 500 mana to increase it to 2 poison damage per tick. That's a pretty significant nerf, and I still have seen people use it because Toxic Totality is still pretty relevant with the Rune of Reanimation, which is entirely reliant upon poison damage, but it's definitely not as effective as just picking off units early on as it was before. Lastly here, we have some damage buffs for the generals. Xiphos now does a massive 45 damage per hit to heavy units. And Kichu also got a slight damage buff to 30 damage now to heavy units and 35 to light units. Not sure how I feel about those because they were already pretty powerful, but I guess we'll see how that plays out. That's pretty much going to be it for the balance changes, and there were a couple other changes that I wanted to cover, so I'm just going to just hop into a practice match right now to show you what I mean. The first change I want to really cover here is that Archidons and all other ranged units now have a limited range in which they can fire their arrows. And that's to prevent the plague of economy sniping that has been going on since the game has begun. If I shoot like this, there is not going to be any visible difference, but if I shoot like this, you'll see the arrow just breaks in midair and it will not connect with any target.
Defend forward.
We still have the multiple Q system from before, which I appreciate because that has added a lot more depth to the multiplayer in this game. You see, I believe the maximum range, oh, you see right there, those yellow pluses, that's actually the visible cure from the vampiric soul effect. But what I was getting on to saying was that for user controlling it, you can only shoot 25% farther than the AI can for a normal shot, so you can still shoot pretty far distance away, as in right there, but if you try and shoot from someone like over here, that arrow is going to break before it connects with the target, which I really appreciate. Now, again, with increased health to the Archidons, this kind of compensates for that, but I can really appreciate these changes here, so I'm just going to start building a couple more units here and see if I can quickly finish this match. Another thing I noticed is that even castle archers are affected by this, which is another thing I forgot to cover earlier, is castle archers no longer have a ridiculously long range and will no longer be able to target retreating units as well as they did before. Their arrows will actually, in fact, break right around this area over here when they're trying to shoot at you. So that also helps balance those out. If you just take a look, the miners are definitely faster than they were before in terms of mining. I remember it felt a lot slower than this before. But still, otherwise mining is pretty much remaining the same with a maximum of 12 miners. Projectile barrier still lasts about 12 or so seconds before dissipating, and it can block an unlimited number of projectiles during that time, which I still find to be unbalanced. I'm going to try and get some more units out here and show you how mass heal has changed. It's not going to heal as much as it did before. See there, oh wow, they came with a giant. I'm a little surprised by that. But if you, I don't know if you caught a glimpse of that, but that lightning bolt only did 27 damage. See if when I tap mass heal here, it's gonna heal 10 per second. And it stops there once it gets a total of 60.
Attack!
Of course, it's very easy to bully the opponent with user-controlled units. I just appreciate. Oh, well, that's gonna be trouble. Gotta be careful with that lightning storm because it can snipe your lower health units pretty badly. Of course, you can still do stuff like that in this, which I still find to be pretty annoying.
Defend! Attack!
Personally, I don't think castle archers should be affected by projectile barrier or any other spells. I guess that would affect that, but as you can see, it's still relatively easy to win a match with those two spells. But that's really all it's going to be there for today. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll keep you posted on any other updates that come out soon. Keep in mind that the game is going to be releasing an early release for December 12th, where you will have the chance to download it yourself and test it out. So, looking forward to seeing more players on here, because I believe this will be a great game when it comes out. See you then!